And Nicoya, thank you for joining us today. Nicoya is with Rising Springs, and Jim absolutely loves your water. As we've been going through this microplastics piece, we wanted to offer our viewers an alternative to just buying bottled water or drinking the tap water. And we wanted to introduce Rising Springs as an alternative. So if you don't mind, tell us a bit about Rising Springs.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on, Justin. So Rising Springs is bottled out of a source in Pine, Idaho, about an hour and a half outside of Boise, Idaho, at the base of the Sawtooth Mountains. The Sawtooths are in the largest contiguous wildlands in the United States, so the source is incredibly protected. The water itself rises from an aquifer from 2.2 miles deep, making it the deepest source in the United States. And it's protected by this granite batholith, which is the largest granite batholith in the world. And the water itself fell as rain or snow about 16,000 years ago. So it fell before any type of environmental or man-made contamination. So it's never come in contact with our modern day world. As the water rises, it comes up through 2 miles of quartz crystal. So it picks up the silica out of the quartz on its journey to the surface. It also comes out at a pH of 9.4. So it's got a high alkalinity. And the water is pure to parts per quadrillion, which is the smallest particle we could test down to, free of, like I said, any type of modern day contamination, including the plastics that you're discussing.
The natural filtration and the testing it goes through absolutely was so impressive. Has that always been something that was a mission from the business, or is it just the water's so natural you just wanted to promote how natural it actually is?
Yeah, so I mean, when we actually didn't come from, the family, when we purchased the spring about 6 years ago, we came from a lot of water nonprofit and advocacy work. And then somebody that was involved in the sale of this source, which had formerly been bottled under the name Trinity Waters, which was great, an incredible brand that had a lot of respect for the source. When somebody reached out who was part of the sale, asking us if we were interested in purchasing this source for basically for stewardship and whatever else might happen, we were blown away by the purity of the water. I mean, I think that is by far what stands out the most, because sadly, having spent so much time in water advocacy and nonprofit work, we knew kind of the state of waters, not only, groundwaters and, water that comes out of your tap, but really how some of the incredible spring sources have been contaminated by the environmental pollution that we see in the world today. And so that was one of the things that stood out to us. And also, after we purchased the spring, we spent a lot of time just kind of meditating on what would be the best use. There was a single-serve plastic bottling line in the plant next to the spring, and that's what they had been using. We immediately removed that because we knew clearly that we would not take that journey. So we spent just some time thinking what the best use and how to serve the spring with the highest use for it and humans, and decided that because of its purity and because of the benefits in the water, the alkalinity, the redox potential, the silica, that it did merit sharing with people who were seeking a source like that.
Well, when you mentioned the untouched nature of it, here in Florida, we pull water from the aquifers underneath the state, and there is growing concern that there's a great deal of items leaching into that water through our fertilizers. And so it's incredible that you're able to find a source that is so untouched and so pure.
It is incredible. And I think, I'm reading a book called Troubled Water, What's Wrong with What We Drink. And in there, it sourced that there was 120, or it stated that there was 120 toxic contaminants that can be leaching into water, and 90 are what is regulated. So there's just a lot we don't know about what is in the water that comes from most of our taps.
Absolutely. And that journey that takes, the 2.2 mile journey where it's picking up You said silica, and I also noticed there was natural fluoride, if I wasn't mistaken.
Yes, yeah. So, fluoride is a topic that's been widely discussed for a while now. When, we started seeing municipalities putting fluoridation into our drinking water. There's a lot to consider about fluoride. That is basically, the byproduct of the industrial waste product of aluminum or fertilizer is actually what is being put in, and sodium fluoride. What Rising Springs, and actually I have well, probably not everybody's going to see this, but this is the fluoride crystal I'm holding up, which is a gorgeous green crystal. And this is actually the fluoride crystal where the fluoride comes from. And then the fluoride actually bonds with calcium to make it calcium fluoride, which just has health benefits for us.
Well, the taste is incredible.
Yes.
I'm unfortunately used to the filtered tap water or the refrigerator water that who knows.
Yeah.
But yeah, not only just the taste of the water, you guys have gone a great deal in conservation of your packaging,
Yep.
your ability to recycle that. Do you mind telling me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that journey we were speaking to, it took us about a year to really dive into packaging. And when we first, had decided, yes, we did want to relaunch the brand, we had assumed we would go into glass. And we knew we were going to be a direct-to-consumer company. When we started researching glass, it was clear that, the carbon footprint was much higher than we had realized. And, just from the production and the transportation to the recycling, it had a high impact. And so we were hopeful for a lot of, new technologies, plant-based plastics, all these different, things we had kind of heard about. And we researched all of them, and none of them were viable for the product at this time. We hope that they will be soon. But when we saw the bag-in-box technology that most of us are familiar with, wine coming in a box, and we started researching that, such a low carbon footprint for the volume of water that we're transporting. And so that was a great idea. We did know that we needed to offer and support a way to upcycle the plastic liner that's inside, which is significantly less plastic than you would have if you had that in single serve. And it's, the BPA, BPF, BPS free. And we test for leakage. So we test all of our batches, and we let them sit, I think, from a year ago or however long. I'm not super great on those numbers, but, we test for any phthalate leakage into the water. There's never been any, which makes us feel really good. So then it's about, so we feel like the consumer is well cared for. So what do we do with the plastic to be responsible? And we first thought that 3D printing would be an amazing option. And we did, we sent the plastic off, and yes, there is the ability to do that, but we would have to just gather tons of plastic bags. And we're just not that big of a company right now. So we found a company in Boise, which will upcycle every part of the bag, the spout, even the little tag that you pull off, the safety seal, into synthetic diesel. And so for now, that seems like the best upcycling option we have. We stay, very involved in what our options are, and are very conscious of and remain flexible with our ability to pivot if needed, and so when there's other options available, we will look into those. But for now, you.
Oh no, I like that Jim had mentioned moving to glass containers, and it makes absolute sense that the footprint on that just currently isn't something that would be manageable for a distribution chain to do it efficiently.
Right. So interesting enough, we just put in a glass bottling line.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So we had a lot of requests for glass, and again, we went back and looked at all of our options. What made sense to us for glass was to be in retail and to be in restaurants and, spas, yoga studios, that kind of, those kind of places. And so we're excited to, we have the glasses made here in the US, or maybe in Canada. There's two different plants. And again, we offset our carbon footprint as a company. So what we had to look at is that will definitely increase what we need to offset. And so we're willing to do that. And so then I feel like what's nice about that is it really gives the consumer a choice, right? Because there's a lot of people that just really don't want to support plastic. And there's a lot of people that feel like, hey, we need to move away from plastic, but it's going to take steps. So we want to give everybody an option, because really the water is the thing that we want, people to have access to. So if you feel like you want it in glass, then that's available. We suggest, that you look at offsetting your own carbon footprint, because it is a footprint. Everything has a footprint, and glass has a high footprint. And if you choose the box, then we ask that you help us close the loop by returning the bags to us so they can be upcycled.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On the website, I read that there was a big difference or a big concern about bottling it directly at the source instead of transporting it.
Yes.
The facility is, 10 feet away from the actual source where you're pulling it from?
I think I did say 10 feet once. I probably was slightly off. It's probably more like, door to door, it's about 10 feet.
Okay.
Is true. The water leaves the source house and kind of goes into a holding tank, and then goes into the packaging plant. And so what's so interesting. I've learned so much about water in the last 6 years. But bottled water, things that are products that are defined bottled water have to process or treat their water to be compliant with basically state standards, as I understand it. So we don't want to process or treat this water. We don't want to add anything. We don't want to remove anything. And so to do that, we are able to package on site. If you transport the water, you have to disinfect it. Once it goes into a tank, you have to treat it in some way. So so for us to be able to offer this water in its most pure state, we needed to package at the plant.
And the natural versus denatured water, does that tie directly into what you were speaking of? You didn't want to touch it, you didn't want to affect its quality?
Yeah, that goes into so many things. So once we take, even a shallow spring water source like you and I have spoken to can be contaminated. So to make that safe for human consumption, you have to start treating that. You need to filter it. Oftentimes there's chemicals added. There's all sorts of treatment methods. Every time you're treating it, you are affecting the structure and the nature of the water. And then also every time you are filtering out or pulling things out, you're removing what's good about the water, right? So if we were to treat Rising Springs the way some of these water treatment plants, there would be nothing left in it to be beneficial. And then probably chemicals would be added. So yeah, this water, because it comes from a natural source and has all of its benefits left in it, it has its structure intact, and it has all of the incredible minerals, and it also has a quality of having a life force that comes from the ground. And when you start removing all of this out, you lose all of that. So many people are just drinking a very dead version of water with very little benefits, which some practitioners say can actually dehydrate your body and strip your body of minerals, because there's just nothing in it. So it's actually pulling out.
It's been years, but my grandparents, more than a decade or so ago, had a farm in Florida way out, and they had a natural well that the water that came out of their tap was infinitely better than the water, and that was still the aquifers. So you can make a statement about if there was some leaching from nearby sources, but the purity and the taste of it is just so incredible. And Rising Springs, I'm going to be honest, Grandma's not going to be happy. It beats it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, as far as our viewers finding you, you have a few different options as far as delivery, subscriptions. Do you mind telling us a bit about that?
Yeah, so people can go to our website, risingspringsource.com, and we have the 5-liter bottles available on the site. You can sign up for a subscription and receive those boxes to your doorstep once a month or once every 2 weeks. And, we view it as a as an addition to your water regimen, so that you would add it into what you are currently doing as a kind of wellness water supplement, because it is a natural mineral supplement. And so receiving that on a regular basis, just like we take our vitamins on a regular basis and all of those kinds of things, is kind of the idea that you can depend on it. And so it just comes every 2 weeks or once a month, and you can cancel anytime. There's also the option just to get 1 box, so you can try it and see what you think of it. And then we're also just launching an affiliate program for those people who are interested in that. So there is a link on our website to become an affiliate as well. And then we hope to soon have the glass in restaurants and in, kind of independent grocers, mostly on the West Coast to begin with, once the West Coast is receiving
open again.
Things. And
it's
so
a weird time to launch a product, or
let me tell you, it is a weird time to launch a product. We also will probably have glass available, or we plan to have glass available on the website for a while, because that's the only way that people can actually access it until we do get some placement in groceries and restaurants.
Well, I'm glad you're able to, for a customer who is very plastic conscious, even though you have gone the extra step of BPA free, BPS free, BPF free, sorry, there's a lot of B's in there,
I know.
to offer that the customer desired is a big move, because it's not a small undertaking. You had, like you said, you had to offset your footprint from all that. That was, how long did a process like that take?
The offsetting of the footprint?
Oh no, sorry. To get that glass production going, that sounds like a massive undertaking.
It was a massive undertaking. Yeah. It took I think probably about a year to really put all the pieces in place to like have bottles. We just ran the line for the first time, and we started designing the bottle about this time last year. We did run into some issues when COVID shut everything down. We had parts in Italy and people that couldn't get to us, so that did cause things to take longer, as well as just internally having to layer in the precautions needed to be conscious and responsible for what was happening in the world. So yeah, about a year that took, and it was quite a journey, but it feels really good to have options, for people. It's like, yes, we're trying to put our best foot forward in packaging, but we definitely don't know all the answers. And we really invite people to have the conversation with us to find better ways, but to give people an option for what their choice is that they resonate, which is the best, most responsible packaging they can have for their bodies and for the world, feels really good.
Well, and this could be too in the weeds. I can cut around this if necessary. But for a lay person, I'm a science geek, so I don't mind getting into the weeds with things. But for a lay person, why is that pH so important?
There's so much information about the pH. And so I don't think there is a very simple answer to that question. I think that the kind of the high level, not diving in too deep. One was interesting is that I did a podcast with Martin Rees and Michael Masha, and they were talking about the effect alkalinity has on the taste, which is something that I had never really thought of. So if you think of having an acidic, tasting something acidic and tasting something alkaline, there's a much different experience. So I think the alkalinity gives a lot to that feel, the softness, the smoothness of the water, and maybe why it feels so refreshing. Then there's a lot of discussion about alkalinity for our health, and the fact that we live in such an acidic world, and that acidity breeds illness, so that we want to bring our bodies to more of an alkaline state, to balance that out and not create an environment for illness to flourish. And so I think that's a very simple version of part of why alkalinity for health resonates with a lot of people.
And as I'll end up doing a closing on the side to pull everything together, but I did want to let you, if there is anything that differentiates Rising Springs from, I just wanted to open the floor. You can absolutely speak as you'd like.
Yeah, I think, my hope is that Rising Springs will bring a little bit more awareness to what's happening with the water, in the States and all over, but I think we need to focus close to home. And I really invite people to focus close to their home and what's going on with water in their hometown. Rising Springs is the deepest, purest source in the US. There are a couple really amazing brands out there as well, but very few that have, there's really only one other one that claims to be free of environmental and man-made contaminants. That's a huge deal.
And
that's really
it's
very
difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible that we get to drink it. It's also incredible that there's not more. So I just really invite people to, think we have so much focus on the food we eat, and that it's organic, and that it's local and non-GMO and all of that. And we have very little, it feels like there's very little focus or discussion about the water we drink, and people just, a Brita filter or a home filter is kind of as far as they go, but it's really more complex than that. And so, I hope that not only people will come and try Rising Springs because it's an incredible source of water and, has a great health benefits, but also just the understanding of how valuable a source this is because of its purity will bring about a little bit more thought and conversation to what is going on, so that maybe we can slow some of the environmental contamination that's happening to our water. And so Waterkeeper Alliance is a great place to go and get some education, not only about what's happening now in the world, in our nation, but you can also type in your zip code and kind of find what's happening closest to you and how you can support and educate yourself about water. Swimmable, drinkable, fishable water is kind of their slogan. So all of those are important.
I'm somewhat afraid to type in the zip code of where we are. I don't think I want to at all.
Well, what's nice about Waterkeeper Alliance is really you can type in the zip code and you can see the waterkeeper closest to you, and you can join in and participate without maybe having to take the deep dive into all of the what's going wrong, because that can feel like just too overwhelming. And so even reading this book Troubled Water, it's like I have to just take it in stages and remember that I'm reading it because I want to help make a change. And so I do need to educate myself, but slowly, so that I don't just get overwhelmed. And
a lot there.
Yeah.
It's like the COVID. The more I watch the news and learn about COVID, the less I wish I watched the news and learned about COVID.
Yes. Understandable.
And Nicoya, I wanted to thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. If people would like to find you one more time, do you mind telling us the website?
RisingSpringsSource.com, and then rising_springs for an Instagram, which gives some gorgeous pictures of the actual source that the water rises in, the source house, and the area around it.
And for people in the area, are they able to take a tour of any kind?
Yep. Yeah, we invite anybody to come take a tour and fill their water bottles for free, their personal water bottles, not a trucker tank or anything of that sort, but we would love people to come and see it. We just ask, there's a customer service number, we just ask that you reach out and we find a time where the plant is available for tours, because we are such a small staff and we're sometimes everybody's in there doing the filling and there's nobody available. Working. So we just have to find a time that works, but we love people to come and visit.
Well, I'll put the number down in the description so they don't have to hunt. I'll beg them to call prior. But thank you very much again.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.